Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. You might encounter strong language. Oops. We also want to be clear that the things we say are our opinions and in should no way be taken as medical health or dietary advice. We also are aware that we have certain privileged experiences and therefore we are not able to be representative. And we don't even aim to be representative of all the things that people have lived and felt that we have not. I'm fat, and this is the first time in my life I have a fat friend. And of course, that is not all that defines you, Maya. There's so much more, but it is still the first time in my life that I have a fat friend. So,
Thank you. I'm fat and I love being around fat people. So,
I'm fat, and when I was younger, I did judge friends based on how they looked. So,
it's alright. We are products of the same fatphobic society. I'm fat and I will take a community over thinness any day. So,
oh damn, for sure. I'm fat, and I do hope more people realize how okay that is. So,
I'm fat and I'm happy this way. So,
woohoo! This is a great fatsoism at the end of the season. Wonderful. Well, welcome to Fat So, the podcast where we talk about the joys and sorrows of being fat women in India. Heavy on the joy. I'm Pallavi.
And I'm Ameya. And today we're talking about community. No, not that idiotic TV show that everyone loves or what they claim to have at a co-working space, but real actual community. Finding people who get you and the solace and support and strength that you can draw from that. I don't know if I can rant about community. I mean, I guess I can rant about the opposite of community. Communalism? No. I do often wonder what we could achieve if we all pulled together. You know, we spend so much of our time and our energy differentiating ourselves from other people. I have to be different. I have to stand out. I have to be individual. I have to leave this kind of an impact. I have to me, my stuff, my house, my watch, my car, my phone. Do you really need, for example, Pallavi, I'm not throwing shade, but do you really need a MacBook, an iPad, an iPhone, an iWatch, AirPods? Like, does anybody really need all of that? They're very wonderful and very useful, but it's like we start collecting stuff. Again, P, I'm really not talking to you, just to be clear. We all just start collecting stuff as if the stuff delineates us and our value, and we have to stand out. You always want to stand out in a crowd, right? You're supposed to stand out. You're supposed to come first in class. You're supposed to get that promotion. You're supposed to be on the dean's list. You're supposed to, you have to stand out. But why? My question is why, right? You know, the world is so capitalist and patriarchal that we can only see things as, if I don't have the power, you do. As opposed to, maybe we can share the power? Everything is all or nothing. Everything is me first. Everything is... Look at the EU. Years and years of talking down to the developing world about how you poor civilized, uncivilized creatures, we'll give you money, but we'll teach you how to run your governments. You know, while sneakily teaching them how to run the government so that they can continue to exploit natural resources, etc., right? All this, no, the US Trump is bad. You can't do America first. You have to be thinking about other people. Look at how they behaved with vaccines in the pandemic, right? Look at how they're all doing it. Canada is busy fucking hoarding vaccines while African health workers are not going to get vaccinated till 2023. Take a second and think about that. All these years of talking down to Africa about their society and their problems and how you should be like us because we work for the greater good and we believe in all bullshit. This is my point. Everything about the way the world is built is about me first, me and mine first, my stuff, my family, my children. It's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. Can you imagine a world where instead of living by competition, individualism, and differentiation, We met in collaboration, community, and compassion. I saw a little bit of that with Shaheen Bagh in 2019. A little bit. But then, of course, the pandemic came around to fuck that over. But just imagine a world. Imagine a world like that.
Wow. A little bit role reversal is happening. But yeah, I mean, imagine a world like that.
Listen, you ranted so much last episode, it was my turn, okay?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love it. And, I mean, well, as I have told you before, I do think capitalism in its essential form is not such a bad thing, but I do not
Correct.
think it is being applied that way. There are too many borders, there are too many restrictions, there are too many exceptions to those rules. So, well, I shall not go into that. But yeah, I mean, really, imagine a world where we're actually kind to each other, right? But I
Yeah.
think for me, when I think of community, I think my basic question is, how does one build a community of people who are marginalized, and not just that, but actually believe they deserve it? They believe that they are not enough. I mean, we've discussed this so many times. How many of our trolls are actually people who are fat themselves and are
Yeah.
trying so hard to block out anyone or anything that will say to them that, no, you're okay as you are, because they're just so scared of believing that. Because they believe that they are not enough, not worthy, not deserving. They will vociferously defend this belief that there is actually something wrong with them. And that's because they have bought into the lie that their lives can only be better if they achieve that magical number on the scale.
Yep.
So how do you build a community of people who believe they can never have the life? So this will be a community that they compromise with, right? Because they're lonely. So it won't really be a community, because as long as they resist who they are, they're pretty much allergic to who they are, and therefore any community around that. So these are the questions for me, because I believe in the power of community, and I see the huge void there is. I mean, even if something is beginning, there's still a huge void there is in terms of building community in the fat liberation space. I mean, I think the only reason you and I are being able to do a lot of what we are doing is because you and I have formed our own little circle of community and feeling safe. I at least know that a lot of the things I do for the podcast or in life in general are inspired by having you and seeing your example. So, yeah, I mean, I want a community and I love it and I dream of it, but I have these very basic questions about the how of this.
They're very valid questions. No one's no one's arguing with that. I think we have to just try, right? We have to start somewhere. In some ways, I feel like we have managed to build a very, very tiny, very, very tenuously connected set of people who reach out to us, who send us memes and ask us questions, and
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. But what
Yeah.
would be lovely is if we could all do that with each other, if we could learn to trust the other person not to attack, and if we could learn to suppress our instinct to attack, because that's the other problem, right? Your first instinct is a defensive. Rawr! Attack first as defense. So yeah, anyway, my experience of community is kind of interesting, because for me, community my entire life has been defined as my family, my cousins on my mother's side, my parents, my sister, my nieces, and some good friends. I never had a gang of friends. Like many people had, like a gang in college and a gang in school. I never had any of those things. I never I never fit in school. I was such an outsider. My God, I can't tell you. I barely had friends. I was such a weirdo. I was fat. I was an intelligent girl who didn't have to study, and I was too stupid to fake it. And I used to have opinions. I spoke English. I didn't watch Bollywood movies. I read books. These are all things that were very alien to the kids in my school, because it's not their context. I'm not privileging one over the other. Everybody has their context, right? But for me, I really never fit, And then I went to college, and it was like mind boggling, because suddenly there were all these people who I shared this larger ground with, that they were much more like me. But I still never found a community, because my life in college was super dramatic. Every year I had like to find a new group of friends. Don't even get me started. And so I kind of had one gang of friends, but I wasn't with them always. And then there was the theater club people, but I joined it too late to really belong. And then I went and got my masters, and in my masters I really didn't fit because almost everyone was in hostel and I was a day scholar. And all the bonding used to happen at night in the hostel when I was at home. And I was so desperately trying to fit and match and connect, and it just didn't work. And that's when I started blogging. And I got on this blogging website called Zanga.com, and this was way back in 2004. And it was like magic. Suddenly in the internet, I found my tribe. Suddenly there were these people, I thought I was so alone. Suddenly there were all these people, mostly in Bombay, mostly 2 to 5 years younger than me, who were doing all these things and having these conversations. And we had like, oh God, we had this huge community online, and we would just keep talking to each other. And it's really funny because everyone was anonymous. Nobody really gave their names out and stuff. Eventually, after a while, with some of those people, you'd become good friends and you'd switch to chatting on Messenger. And then I went to Bombay and I met a bunch of them. Some of them are extremely famous right now. Haha. But what's really funny is that I still meet people in the world today who suddenly we realize that shit, we used to talk on that blog forum all those years ago. It's really freaky how that is. But then that sort of faded, and then I went to New York. And in New York, I didn't mind not fitting in, of course, because I was in a foreign country, right? And I was busy learning all these things. But again, I had some friends, and some of them would overlap, but there was no gang that I saw regularly. So only when I came back to live in Hyderabad and I was working at Deloitte that I really had a gang. And what a gang it was, right? There were like 40 or 50 of us. We would all end up congregating at the same bar on Thursday, same bar on Fridays. I mean, Thursday was one bar, Friday was another bar, Saturday was in someone's house. Like always. And it would always happen, and it would just the system. If you wanted to see a movie, there'd be 20 people who'd want to go with you, and actually it was more a problem of keeping the numbers down. We all liked the same stuff, and we used to do this and that and play Holi in some Haveli with a pool, and then all this shit which I had never experienced in my life was so fucking bizarre. And for some reason, being myself, that's my Uranus in the 4th house, I had to up and move myself out of this place and come to Delhi. And coming to Delhi was very traumatic because I still had all my college friends here, but they had all sort of moved on with their lives and never had time for me. And then I had this falling out with my flatmate, and I had to start all over again and make friends all over again. And I tried. And again, I never again had a gang. There was a brief period where I had a bunch of friends and we used to do potluck dinners every weekend. But it wasn't a gang. We were all people who got along, but we weren't like a group of friends who were independently friends with each other. They were all my friends, and we would all gather and we all got along. But I was the connecting point to all of them, right? Which was nice, but then... And then as I got older, I was like, I'm in my 30s. I'm single. Everybody I know is in a couple. And the fact of life is coupled people are just that much less willing to go out or make an effort or leave their house. And I don't blame them, because now that I have company at home like you, I don't want to go out.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you go out once in a while, but do you want to go out all the time? No, you want to just chill because you're old and you're lazy and you're tired and like, fuck that shit. So I understand it, but it became very difficult for me as a single person. And then in Spain, I was just lost because I didn't have money to party, and partying was all people did. And even if I had the money, bro, I couldn't stay up past midnight. And that's when you start leaving the house for the party. So I was just lost. I couldn't go on the sailing trips or the skiing trips I just didn't have the money. So I did a lot of solo travel, and I had friends. Not like I didn't have friends, but each of those friends, like I'd have 1 or 2 friends from a group. So I wasn't in the group. I would occasionally be added along to the group, and it'd be a little weird, but nice. But now all my friends together never formed a group again, right? So it was kind of really painful. And of course, when I came back to Delhi, after that, same thing all over again. Struggling so hard to find community. And it just didn't really happen for the longest time.
You know, it's so interesting hearing you talk about this because the truth is that for me, I love individual relationships, you know? Like the only time I had a group was in college, and then also it was just the 4 of us. And I can't say that it was the best experience of friendship in my life, of course, but 4 doesn't really make a group, I think. And I don't know, it's not something that I am drawn to, shall I say. Like, I really love my individual relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really love my individual relationships. Like, for example, I've never had a birthday party, so to speak, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to call all these people together. They don't know each other. I'm the connecting point, and I know that there will be friends of mine who do not like the other friends I have, okay? I know, because my friends are just so different, and, different age groups and all kinds of things. So for me, so like I told you, that this time for my birthday, I'm just setting up all of these individual dates, and I'm very excited about it because for me, that individual connect is just so precious and so beautiful and so important. So yeah, it's quite kind of interesting to hear this other perspective. So thank you.
Hmm.
And when I talk about my personal experience of community, uh, it's, I have to say, and I know this is a trigger for some people, and it is completely based on my experience, but I think my first experience of community that I felt actually safe and comfortable with was actually the fact that I found people on social media. I mean, I know it has a dark side, and God knows I complain about posting, but just the joy and freedom and space to express that it has given me felt like a community, felt like being part of a tribe. And there are people I've met on account of it. A lot of the knowledge I have gained, the ability to unlearn, the ability to retrain, especially when it comes to fat phobia, because that was one of the biggest things that I was carrying, was, and just be inspired by someone else's example. It just, all of that did come to me through social media, you know? And uh, I know that I have the experience to some extent to be able to discern what I want to follow and what I don't want to follow. And I know it's a minefield for others who are still finding their way. But I mean, as I said, this is my experience, so I have to share it.
Yes.
And for a number of years, all I was doing was shadowing, reading, learning, experimenting. I mean, even my own Insta feed was actually an experiment where I was like, okay, for years and years, I've only posted like these motivational posts and quotes. And like, if you scroll down to the beginning of my social media, there are hundreds of these posts which are just motivational, like nicely as per me, may cringe, someone else may cringe. But anyways, just, stuff that I was putting out there, which, and then I suddenly said, no, let me put pictures of myself and let me see what happens. And the more encouragement I felt, the more I felt motivated to post. And of course, I have a lot of random people who I wish were not there and would not say the things they say. But okay, out of 10, I have one genuine connection or one genuine person, even if I don't connect. But still, and it makes it worth it because people would talk to me and say, hey, I saw your this thing and I'm thinking I will also get that sleeveless. I'm going to copy your design. Like a lot of that was happening to me, when I started that Insta account. So it just felt that was the first time when I felt that, okay, this is a different sort of community. This is a community where I feel safer in, despite despite some of these cons. And it's strange because all the while before this, community for me has been around the ideology I believe in. So, for example, if I was learning all the alternative healing therapies, my community was then people who were learning alternative healing therapies. So when I changed, and what would happen was I would grow out of that because I would develop in my ideology or the way I look at spirituality, and then I would join another community, and the same would happen there, So it was community, therefore, then became this little bit of a iffy thing where I wasn't sure I belonged. And I was constantly afraid of growing out. Like I would find my tribe, but then I'd always be concerned and worried about losing that tribe. And the thing is that I believe in community. I am a very firm believer in community because, there's this quote in Hindi, which is Sangat ka asar, which basically means that you're influenced by the company that you keep. And I do believe a lot of the choices, I know that when I have people who hold me accountable, I make choices accordingly. And, I think there was a lot of judgment there as well in those communities, because if you didn't follow the ideology, it can become a little cultish, even though most of the communities I was a part of was not aligned to one person, but they would become a little, even the ideology would become, oh, I'm always peaceful and working on myself and all of that jazz, which you can't, it's not sustainable all the time. So, yeah, so now, of course, my whole definition of community is different, because it's deeper. I feel like it's not at a mental level, it's more at an emotional level and more at a lived experience sort of tribe. But yeah, that's my experience of community.
So yeah, I agree. Like, that's the thing, that earlier I used to think that community was people whom you saw every week. Community was having friends that all hung out together.
Yeah.
And, that was a thing I lacked in my life. But it was last year that I truly began to understand true community, right? And I know you and I shared this experience, right? So let's back up a bit to the fat gathering where you and I met. And that moment of shared experience was like a shock.
Oh, yeah.
Intellectually, I knew it existed, but to physically and emotionally and psychically experience it in that moment was a shock, right? But more than anything else, the sisterhood group that we have from Gather On Sisters, that has been, to me, a shining beacon of community, which is what I mean when I say Shaheen Bagh. Shaheen Bagh was community. It's not about knowing those people or seeing them every day. It's about community, to me, has become a seamless, it's not even a net. Actually, it is a net, I guess. But it's like a seamless web of support and solace and strength. It's always there. You don't have to see it or touch it or feel it or look at it every day. You don't have to interact with it. You don't have to agree with it, right? The fundamental underlying definition of community is that idea of collaboration and compassion. That idea of, we're in this together, we will rise together, we will fall together. We will support each other. And that is what I mean. I may have a lot of problems. There may be X person or Y person who annoys the crap out of me. But that person is still a person who is still in my community and is still in my web. And that person will have my support. Whatever it is, right? So that's the thing. What I adore about that group, and right through lockdown, how we used to go every day, from in the course of 2 hours, we would have a raging political conversation. Someone teaching you about Indian Sign Language, somebody talking about the cats, and then there'd be like 50 cat pictures, and the dog people would be like, no, now dog pictures, and then in the middle there'll be recipes and gynecologist, and some girl in some community in some part of the country needs a safe abortion. Does anyone know a gynecologist? And that is what I mean. To me, that has truly come to define community in a way that I cannot even express in words. And that was the most healing, most community building place, and that's what I want to make for fat people. That's what I want to make. I don't have to agree with you. But we're in this together. We're in this together. And that is the beauty of it. I have a dream. My God, I've really become you. I have a dream, and I've nursed this dream for a long time, 6, 7, 8 years, where somewhere, and I increasingly think if it's in India, it's going to be in Kodaikanal or something like that, a community of single women over the age of 30, probably more like 33, 34 up, even 35 up. But we are single women who have whatever lives we have, with or without children, partners, divorcees, elderly parents, siblings, people we have to look after, whatever it is. But single women who can create a collective space of living and being and sharing and supporting that can replace all the care that society has withdrawn from us because it assumes your family will do it. If you think about it, one of the ways that community in society has changed so much is because it's like, oh, family. You will get your partner and your children and your parents, and everyone will look after each other. And so society withdraws. And so many people don't have those families. They may not literally have the families. The families may be abusive or manipulative or problematic. And that's where society was supposed to step in and catch you in its net And I want to build that. That's my dream, where we can all live, and I have this whole plan for how the building will be, and how we'll share caretakers and maids, and all of those things can be taken care of if we build that community. I'm sick, somebody will drive me to the doctor. Somebody will make sure that food is arrived in my door. Those things. Anyway, let's talk about your healing, Pallavi.
Well, that is a very beautiful dream, Maya, and may it come true, and may I be a part of it, because it is definitely something
course
that
you're a
I
part of
dream
it.
of. No, I mean, you never know where life takes you, but yeah, I mean, I think that would be such a beautiful, like if I look at life as an unfolding, that would be such a beautiful unfolding of life and our experiences and all that we've gone through, if that dream could be made a reality.
Fully agree.
And, it comes, and I think my experience very much impacts my healing, because my relationship with community was love-hate, right? Because it used to be based on an ideology. There would be judgment. In any case, I would not fit in because I was a fat person,
Yeah.
And then, this thing of I want to be free, and I want to fly freer and freer, and I want to continue my work on being more and more, I don't know how to put it, but more and more aware, less and less reactive, which I have a lot to do in terms of work on it. But yeah, I mean, it is something that I've constantly aspired to, constantly worked on, constantly, and then I would fall out of communities. So then I started building. But this whole concept of having a tribe, was always something that connected with me. And so I would have individual people who would form my tribe. Like, I remember when I decided to get, the moment I made my decision that, okay, I am going to get that divorce, I texted my tribe. My tribe consisted of 10 separate individuals who did not know each other. Well, 2-3 of them maybe did, but, and they all gave me different perspectives, different levels of support or whatever else. And, it was in those individual friendships. But it was in some of those individual friendships that I truly understood how community could look like. For example, I went with my friends Prabha and Radhika for a weekend out in Jaipur, and I have sleep apnea, so I use the CPAP machine. And that was the first time I was going to admit to another set of friends who didn't know me as well as Swati that I use a CPAP machine, and I was petrified. Because to me, that was just a terrible failure of being fat that I could not even sleep properly, without using a machine. And I still remember when I took out that machine and Radhika saw it and she was like, "Ooh, what's this?" And she explored it like a curious cat. "What's this? Where does this go? How does this happen? What is it? Is it good for you? Does it help you? Oh my God, I'm so glad you found this. Does it help you sleep at night? Does it make you feel better? Oh, really? Your hay fever went away? That is awesome." And my jaw dropped. I was like, huh? There's no judgment? And I swear to God, I actually vocalized it to them and actually said it, I was so afraid of what you guys might say about this because I'm the angel lady, right? They knew me as the angel lady. So, that whole image. And they were like, "No, we're so glad it works for you." And it was just a whole different level of friendship for me because I was like, geez, that's the kind of people I want to be with. They may be completely different for me, but there's no judgment. Wow. So yeah, and anyways, I think in 2000, and anyways, it's been a journey since then. And I think in 2019 was the time when I started thinking, hey, what about building a community? Why do I have to belong to some other community? Why cannot I be someone who initiates this whole thing? And, just as I was thinking that, it just so happened I met Tithi and the gathering, and then I met you, and the rest is history. So, yeah, I mean, then it was just healing and more healing and more healing. And you bet that sisterhood group, I mean,
heal the world.
It's amazing. So,
make it a better place.
There you go. This is going to be the theme song for this episode.
Deva May, we can't afford it. We can't afford the royalties.
That is true. Anyway, so I mean, if I were to to summarize this whole thing about community, or not summarize, but just share what I feel a person could look at if they're looking for community, I would say, well, I would be a pain in the ass first and say, we first need to look at we first need to be aware of, to some extent, of who we are. And I possibly say this because I was aware so little about myself. And I really feel that people these days are a lot more aware than I used to be when I was younger, or the same age as those people that I meet. But anyways, there needs to be some level of awareness. And then, of course, as I said, my favorite word in this season, there needs to be research. And then, one has to experiment and try it out like clothes, and of course, the impact isn't the same as clothes, but just like, you allow for failure when you walk into a store, and sometimes you try out 10 outfits and you don't like any, or sometimes you try out 10 outfits, you like 2, you take them home, and then you still figure out that, okay, 1 or both you don't actually want and you'd like to return. I know it's not so simple, but I think one has to give space for that failure, like in relationships, like in friendships. It's the same thing with community. You could make wrong choices. It does hurt. It does cause suffering. No one likes that. And I will not place before you the argument of it makes you stronger or it makes you learn or anything at all. But it's just practical. Like in everything in life.
Yeah.
It's just practical. Sometimes you just fail and then you realize, oh, okay, but this is what I want more, And if you are listening to this, clearly you want to be, or hopefully you want to be, an active part of fat liberation and want to find community that supports you. And there is, we have found some community. Connect with us as well. I don't mean this for, marketing or those purposes. But the truth is, the reason why you and I are doing this, Ameya, is because of the community we found and the healing we found. And we are here. We have the resources at this point in time because we have this love and support to actually reach out and embrace other people. So come to us. I can give hugs.
It's true. She gives great hugs. Well, that brings us to the end of season 2. Yowza.
Wow.
Kya roller coaster. What a roller coaster. I have to say, I think the biggest thing I learned in season 2 was that you and I are incapable of not digging deep and painfully. Basically, ask us to talk about kittens and 15 minutes later, we'll be exposing childhood traumas.
Wow.
I guess it was naive of us, right? Because we went to the surface in season 1 and we were looking at all the physical stuff and how the physical world and fatness interact. And then this one, we moved on to the inner world. And I legitimately don't know what we thought we were doing because we thought this would be easy. Like, what? What were we smoking? We should smoke some more now.
No, we have ended season 2.
And I don't know about you, but I definitely discovered ways that fat phobia has warped me that I didn't even know existed, right? And I've been in therapy for a long time. I pay a lot of attention to this stuff, and still I was like, oh. Right? It's come home to me increasingly through this whole season and the way people have responded to us. How much pressure society puts on all of us to just conform to something or the other in some bullshit way. And the trauma that we experience as fat people is, we have a whole separate trauma that we experience as women, and a whole separate trauma that somebody experiences as short, a whole separate trauma you experience as someone without wealth, someone of a different sexuality, someone of a different caste or class or skin color. It just goes on and on and on, right? The bottom line is we have all these traumas layered on top of each other, and we seem to have really tied ourselves up into a truly tortured kind of knot in society today. I don't even know how we can hope to escape it unless we all choose to reject these pillars on which the world is built. the desperate pursuit of wealth and status and individual domination over the collective. Like, this season has really taught me how much we need community. And so, in hopes of expanding the breadth of the way we talk and think about stuff, next season, guys, which is not for a while, so don't get too excited. But next season, we have loads of interviews planned. We wanted to do them this season already, but we realized that the deep, dark recesses of our mental health were apparently needed much more work.
It is true.
So yeah, we have loads of interviews that we want to do next time. We have people we can think of. If you can think of someone cool for us to talk to, you know what to do. We'll hopefully manage to get you a couple of bonus episodes in the break between seasons. And we also have to launch our plans for world domination. Okay, kidding. Not world domination, but we have plans, and they're exciting plans. And to know what they are and to keep up with them, please follow us on social media. You know, Fatso Podcast. But even better than that, sign up for our newsletter. Okay, it's fatsopodcast.substack.com. That's fatsopodcast.substack.com. We send out one every week. It recaps everything we're doing, and it gives you a little bit extra, because sometimes we get very philosophical in those newsletters. I think we're getting really good at this, Noki.
Yeah.
Every newsletter seems to be like more interesting. I say this in a completely unbiased way.
No, we
But
read
yes,
each
sign
other's
up.
newsletters. So, can't be totally biased. So, it's okay.
Sign up and you can hear from us every week in the break, and you will definitely not miss any of the exciting stuff we're up to. And I promise you, we have a 12-point list of exciting things. Just FYI. I am not promising all 12 will happen, but there is a list.
True.
And as we end the season, just a request, if you like what we do and you think it's important, please today, right now, just pop up an app and send someone you know this podcast. Send them this episode, send them any episode. Send them to our Instagram, send them to our newsletter, send them to our blog. Something. Just try and do this with one person, because it would really help us. Because if everyone who listens tells one person about us every week, we can really get all this stuff out there. The one thing we've learned this season is that people need to hear some of this stuff. Not that we're some sort of great Devi Oracle Guru G's, but the fact that we talk about this seems to be, the things we talk about seem to resonate so much with people across the board, that we just want people to hear it and remember that it's okay as we go into what certainly looks like the second year of lockdowns. So yeah.
No, but I'm going to add something. People who do not follow us, as a way of entreating you to do so, I'm going to record Agzi's major wailing, like when she gets really down and serious about her wailing, and just send it to you. And if you can resist that, well, you can resist anything. So then it's a lost cause. But
You're a lost cause. Yeah.
That is my evil plan.
Okay, guys. It's been a hell of a season, and kind of sad and kind of relieved that it's over. We'll hopefully connect with you much more in the break, but if not, we'll see you next season. And now, the way we always end, this episode was recorded in a secret location in Delhi, NCR. Our photos were taken by Suraj. Our music was written by Anand. Our logo was made by Yash, and Ameya will be editing.
Whee!
Should I do it in a different voice every time?
Well, we will now leave you with sad hearts, but with lots of plans, and see you soon.
On Instagram. Bye.